Hello, everyone. I'm Jack Geisert. Welcome to our town hall meeting for Safety for Nonprofits. We very much appreciate your joining us today. We have several speakers who are going to present, summarize some information during this short meeting. We'll be wrapping it up before the top of the hour. So, please feel free to enter any questions you have into the chat. Please copy everyone on the chat so that we can all see the questions that are there. And then between myself and Sharon and Nancy and others, we'll go ahead and field those chat questions as we go through. Our speakers today, including myself, are Carrie Gurman out of our California operations. Carrie's based out of California, used to be in Arizona. Nancy Orr from New York, Stephen Mazeros from Pennsylvania, and Sharon Schindel from Arizona. So we're spread across the country. We're a virtual team, as you know, and we're trying to share a little bit of the information from across the country and the work that we're doing. Here's the agenda today. Really, the theme is we are asking that all of our volunteers develop clients, that they introduce Safety for Nonprofits to the nonprofit organizations in their community. So this is a call to action. We're going to focus on how do you get started. We have case studies that give examples, practical examples of how we've successfully been able to obtain requests for services from nonprofits and the organizations, knocking on the doors. So going down through the case studies, one out of Arizona on the Navajo Reservation, University of Findlay, Massachusetts work with the Black Maternal Health Organization. And then we have two examples of STEM organizations and some of the support that we're providing there. Then we're going to review some of the new tools, including our food safety posters and information that's pertinent to the nonprofit sector. Stephen's going to talk about our Wombat software and the tools available there. And then we're going to be open for questions and answers. So if you would please put your speakers on mute unless you have a question or you're speaking, and put it into chat, and we'll move along here pretty promptly. Again, the theme here in our meeting is focusing on delivering services to the nonprofits in our communities. We need our volunteers to knock on the door, go to your favorite.
No, just that AFGE had
nonprofits.
Telework and remote work determination.
I'm sorry, we've got
and we had to kind of let them down gently that we agreed to do it.
We've got someone talking in the background, so, please. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So our focus areas this year, delivering services to the nonprofits. Our leadership team that's represented in this call, are really committed to supporting all of our volunteers. We continue to recruit for new volunteers, but in particular clients. And we also are going to talk a little bit about the partnerships that we're engaged with and the work we're doing with other organizations. And then lastly, one of our focus areas is fundraising, which is to sustain our Safety for Nonprofits. Most of our expenditures, again, go towards purchasing professional liability insurance. So call to action, all of the volunteers, once you complete the orientation and onboarding and sign the code of conduct, you're empowered and authorized to go out and promote Safety for Nonprofits. Our goals are, again, to create awareness about worker safety and health in nonprofit organizations. And really the key is something that many of us are not comfortable with necessarily, or part of our regular jobs, is to go out, knock on doors, and sell services for Safety for Nonprofits. So for many of us, this is an opportunity for professional development. in terms of sales, and then bringing in a client. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and how different members of our team have approached that. So again, just to repeat, get ready to volunteer. We need you out working on knocking on doors, and what we need to do is share in the chat. Please put on mute. We got someone talking in the background. So lastly, here in the chat.
I had just said something to myself. This time, I'm not gonna stop.
It's like it's Christina Roll. I don't know if she can mute. There we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you, everyone. So that's the point. This is where we are in our little program here, as I'm going to hand it off to Carrie now.
Yep. Well, thanks, Jack. It's good to be here. Thank you for attending the meeting. I'm based out of Southern California, formerly Arizona, as Jack mentioned earlier. A lot of people, when they join Safety for Nonprofits, they think, okay, there must be a lot of work out there and I could just start doing some volunteering with a nonprofit. It's not quite that way. We sometimes might have some work in some of the states that have various clients going on. But in a lot of cases, you're going to come in and want to volunteer, but not necessarily have the opportunity to work right away. But you could create that work. But the first step you have to do, as Jack mentioned earlier, is go through the orientation process and sign the code of conduct before beginning any work for Safety for Nonprofits. So that's step one. And you're given that information through an email that you'll receive once you join Safety for Nonprofits and express interest in getting involved. Now, once you do that, it's kind of like joining a consulting company. Many times consulting companies want you to bring clients with you so that you have lots of opportunities you bring to the fray. So what you want to do is try to identify nonprofits in the area that you live and be able to figure out how to support them. What a lot of volunteers do, and what I've seen done before, is that you might be already volunteering with a particular nonprofit in a basic volunteer role, but then you might identify some safety issues that you see while you're at the nonprofit. As an example, you might be working at a food bank, and then you go into the warehouse and you see all the forklift traffic and things of that nature. And you might say, well, I wonder if anybody's got forklift training here or material handling training, or you might see other risks. So there's lots of opportunity that you might see at any particular nonprofit that you might want to get involved in. And so you might want to start small, maybe a risk assessment or some training or putting some procedures together. If you see some of those opportunities, what you want to do is start with a draft scope of work. And that's what we typically do in the consulting businesses. And we say, okay, what's the scope of the work I'm actually going to deliver? And then working with the executive committee member or the state lead, you'll review that scope of work with that person and determine whether or not it makes sense to go forward with the type of opportunity that you have. And that just requires basically our own internal risk assessment to see if it makes sense for us to deliver that type of service to that nonprofit. And then once you actually get authorized and say, yeah, let's do this, and in many cases, that's going to be the case, you have to identify what kind of skills you're going to need to deliver that work. You may be able to provide those skills, or maybe there's other people within the volunteer community of Safety for Nonprofits that can help deliver those services. So we usually the state lead or the executive committee member can work with you to figure that part out. So we have a process to make this happen, and it's just a matter of really identifying that nonprofit and identifying the need for that nonprofit. You can go on to the next slide, Jack. So there's a lot of different reasons that you might want to volunteer in your community to be part of Safety for Nonprofits. You might, again, as I said earlier, you may already be volunteering with a particular nonprofit, and you believe in the mission of that organization and you want to get more involved with them. And you again might identify some safety issues that that you could help with at that nonprofit as well. So you've already identified that opportunity, and then you could start develop that scope of work, as I mentioned earlier. You know, when we volunteer, it always feels really good at the end of the day to say that you've actually made a difference and that you're helping that nonprofit achieve its goals. So when you're working on that, and then you also provide your safety expertise, you're providing a greater need for that nonprofit. And you can continue to also do the other volunteering that you might have been doing before. If you've never done it and you've never volunteered with a nonprofit, you'll be amazed at the sense of the great sense of giving that provides, and you'll find it is a great way to give back to your community. And also there's a great way to network with your peers. There may be people in your local safety professional organizations such as ASSP, or industrial hygiene organizations such as AIHA, that may be able to work with you to also provide those services as well. So there's a lot of reasons to volunteer, and I'm sure that's why you're here in the first place. So reach out to your local safety for nonprofit leader, and we can get started. So we'll answer questions later, and we'll move on to the next speaker at this point.
All
Okay,
right.
Sharon.
So hi, this is Sharon, and we're going to talk about a few examples of our latest nonprofits that we've been working with. This one was really interesting. They contacted us. It's a new nonprofit organization that operates on the Navajo Reservation. And what's interesting is, first of all, how they found us. They were part of the local state nonprofit alliance, and got started by just looking through the database that we are also in and looking for safety. And that's how they found us. And the founder contacted us and asked for assistance. And one of the reasons they needed assistance is because they're doing cleanup of illegal household waste dump sites. You can see in the picture.
I personally think if we definitely have someone do that, we need to loop in several legal counsels, and I know several that have worked on it. Steve was nice enough to share the paper he was discussing.
Excuse me.
There are
Excuse
some
me, Don.
issues
Don,
with that, but like any paper, I think we need to do a comment and maybe even look at that before we just adopt one, one attorney or one practice on.
Thank you. If everybody could go on mute. All right, I will go back to what I was saying here, that we help them because they're doing this cleanup, and you can see that there's waste in basically a dump by the side of the road. And in order, they first of all wanted to be safe and also needed some help with procedures for compliance with insurance requirement. They're also focusing on providing hygiene and food services to folks in their community that lack running water or access to showers, and they're also doing some other community work. So what was interesting about this is because this location is actually quite far and they did not need us to be there in person, we were able to ask all of our S4NP volunteers to see if they wanted to help, and got several people. We ended up with a team of I want to say that Bamik is in Rhode Island now, and Laura is in Florida. And so we had a completely remote team to be able to meet with them. And so we've already completed 2 phases of the work that were requested. The first is creating a safety procedure for the waste cleanup. And now we're in the process of reviewing the second document they created, which is a procedure for when folks are going to use their shower trailer. So really an interesting project, and a tiny little nonprofit that really could not afford to go off and hire any big consulting firm to create these procedures, and they were just so excited that we were able to help them. Next slide, please. The next example is our client in Arizona, which is the Si Se Puede Foundation. They're an amazing nonprofit that focuses on robotics training. So as you can see kind of in the background there and in the pictures, the robots are fairly big, and they move really fast. And what you can't see on the other side of the room is a very large machine shop with drill presses and lathes and all kinds of equipment like that that they are using and the teenagers are using. So it was really important for us to be able to help them make sure that they're operating those safely. So we had 4 different volunteers come in on a couple of visits to do a walkthrough, kind of your standard safety audit. And we provided a risk rank report of what things they could do to improve. You know, and that was all kinds of small things that, you know, health and safety professional notices, all the way to looking a little bit at fire protection systems and just in general. And then the other part of this is they're now using our partner, Wombat Software, which is providing free pro bono software to our clients. And they're using that to document their safety training, their safety requirements, and track that those are getting completed. So the nonprofit is getting access to a high-level piece of software that normally, you know, in the corporate world, we're paying a lot of money for, and this is a great opportunity for them to get something that they don't have to pay for and to really be able to effectively track the safety training for their volunteers. All right, we're on to Nancy.
Hi, I was muted. This is Nancy speaking. I wanted to circle back about a comment that both Carrie and Sharon and even Jack have made, and I'm not sure it's crystal clear. The basic premise of S4NP is we provide these safety services to nonprofits pro bono. There's been a lot of talk about knocking on doors and being a consultant. And yes, we do have to go out there and generate clients, but we are providing our services for free. And that's why that's a service that nonprofits are really thankful for, because as Sharon pointed out, they either can't afford it or in some cases aren't even aware that they need them. So let's just emphasize that our fundraising is to cover our professional liability coverage that we provide for all of our volunteers, and that we are not charging our clients for any of these services. Okay. I want to talk about the University of Findlay, with whom we have a partnership now. And this was interesting in that the University of Findlay was their graduate students in EHS were in need of a capstone project. And so they were looking to get out into the field, really smart kids, but not a lot of field experience. So they were looking for some training and some tips and ideas and guidance in how to perform site assessments and look at certain regulatory programs. And at the same time, this church, St. Casper Church in Ohio, is huge and has a school and it has a community center and it has, of course, a sanctuary. And so a lot of things going on there. They've been in operation many, many years, and they needed some support. So this combination of the students getting a project to round out their year and for the nonprofit to get what they needed was just an excellent opportunity for us. So we worked with St. Casper to narrow down what it is they needed and wanted, which, you know, Carrie already referred to, the scope of work. And their scope was very large, so we narrowed it down a little bit. And then we turned around, and with the help of the professor and a local volunteer that you will hear from, Ohio volunteer Don Ellswick, who also just gave us a little lesson about the attorneys before he muted. But anyway, we were able to provide these students with technical information and training in some regulatory areas, as well as guidance in how you actually do a risk assessment. How do you actually walk through a facility and make note of what's going on there? So we did that training remotely with the students, and then the students went on site and they were supervised by a very senior, very experienced safety for nonprofit volunteer. So it worked out pretty well, I think. We're going to hear now from both the professor, Dr. Carl Habakost, and we're also going to hear from Don Ellswick, who was our man in the field who was coordinating all these kids.
Nancy, if you can confirm that the sound's coming through.
My name is Professor Carl Habakost. I am a professor at the University of Findlay, where I teach in the Environmental Health and Safety Department. I primarily focus on OSHA law and regulations and EPA law and regulations. I had the great opportunity to work with Safety for Nonprofits this past year with a group of students who were performing their capstone projects. We evaluated and analyzed a 50,000 square foot church in the area of regulations, their policies, their reporting procedures, recording. The students broke into groups through the assistance of Safety for Nonprofits, and we did the training program with that organization. We eventually did a final report that qualified for their capstone project. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. The students absolutely loved it. And we would really, really like to participate with Safety for Nonprofits again in the future. Just a great program. I can't recommend it enough. Thank you.
Okay.
And now I think we're going to hear from
Hello,
Don
I'm
Ellswick.
Don Ellswick, and I'm a volunteer with Safety for Nonprofits. I want to talk about the project that we did with the University of Findlay and a client, a nonprofit that wanted to improve their overall performance as in the safety and health area. This project had two advantages as a volunteer. The first one was I was able to give something that the nonprofits needed and improve their volunteers and members throughout the project by enhancing their occupational environmental health and safety programs. The second thing that this project provided was the ability for the professor, Carl Habakost, and I to inspire emerging professionals to really work with people and improve this nonprofit. It was a great experience, and as a volunteer, I want to encourage everyone listening to volunteer for Safety for Nonprofits and reach out to your local university and conduct a capstone project where you can work with nonprofits. Hello.
Okay, Nancy, anything to add before we move on to the next slide?
No, I just, it was really a kick to help these students get something concrete and hands-on. At the same time, the church was bent over backwards to work with us and to complete the findings.
Outstanding. Okay, thank you so much. And thanks to Don Ellswick and the University of Findlay students who all became S4NP volunteers.
Hello.
Stephen.
Yeah, hi everyone. Glad you're here on a beautiful Friday. So I'm going to just talk briefly about a project that Jay Jaraman out of New Jersey, who's one of our volunteers, got involved with. This also is a STEM program where students come in and get to explore all kinds of science type related projects and explore technologies. So the facility ranges from machinery, robotics type things to electronics, and other activities. And so Jay was already engaged with this facility through one of his family members who's participating in some of the programs. And through his visits, he saw an opportunity. Now, just his background, he's a veteran safety professional, recently retired, and had been involved fairly heavily in audit related programs and things of that nature for the corporation that he was working with. It gave him an opportunity to go in there and actually really help these people out, because there were some potential gaps with things such as emergency procedures and drills. As you know, that could be an area of concern. Also, he's now getting involved with other aspects of the program related to safety data sheets, and just giving them some basics of how to understand safety data sheets, making sure they're able to get them together. And that's leading to waste management cleanup procedures. So there obviously are some wastes involved with these type of projects that kids get involved with, and there's potential exposure issues. And so having proper procedures in place make it. He's working through with actually developing some self-audit checklists that they use now routinely and periodically to review their work. So it's a classic example of family was already involved. It was a nonprofit that was in need, that may not have even understood or saw its needs. But after some kind of initial discussions, Jake broke ground and kind of demonstrated to them that there's some potential issues that they probably need to step up to. And then he pitched in and helped them with that. So it's a great example of collaborations that we get involved with. And they start small sometimes, but they tend to grow into bigger opportunities to help these organizations. To Nancy's point, this is all our pro bono work, but as we reach out to many nonprofits, a lot of times they don't know their needs. And many aren't looking for help on safety until something goes wrong. So it's up to sometimes us to kind of be on the forefront and create that engagement, and kind of hopefully reach out and teach them that there may be opportunities for safety and health improvements. And they might not even realize that they even have legal obligations in these areas that we could help them with. So that's one great example. The next slide, I'd like to kind of talk about our platform. Early as we started to kind of pull together the way we operate in S4NP, we had an opportunity to engage with a company called Wombat Software. And they've been so kind as to work with us over the years, helping us in the background with some of our IT needs. They subsequently built a safety software platform. The gentleman who owns this company had a marine safety platform that he used, and it was bought out by certain marine corporations to use for their safety inspections and management systems. And when he saw this opportunity, he said this would be a great opportunity for a way he could give back and create some software that we could use. And then, of course, that turned into something that he can commercialize as well. So the S4NP platform gives us a way to actually organize our deliverables to, from the standpoint of how we operate with our volunteers, a place to actually embed our processes, such as our, things that Carrie mentioned with our go, no-go procedure, our code of conduct, and our scope of work document, and then our final contract. All of these things can now be done on the S4NP platform. The documentation's there, and you don't need to load any fancy apps. You basically just need a device that you can access the internet with, and it's a iCloud-based flat application. So, away you go. The nice part about this is it can actually extend that we could set Wombat up for a client to use, and a client can actually put all of their employees and volunteers into the system, and we could embed training materials, procedures, policies, etc. They can be pushed to the clients, tracked whether they're completed or not. And so it can also help clients like other nonprofits that we're servicing really come up with a streamlined way to address some of their needs to manage things that they should be doing with their policies and procedures for their volunteers and employees. And all of this is kind of very important because it really is what establishes us as being professional and being eligible to kind of seek that liability insurance that we're now offering to all our volunteers. So I think that's all I had on this. So let's move to the next slide. Thank you. Oh, so afterwards, just any of these procedures that we have, the links will be in the presentation, so you can easily access those and connect to it. And I guess the last thing, some neat features that we have in here that probably we should highlight is that, the way we operate is we have state teams, but many of our state programs don't have a large enough population of, so they kind of fall under our virtual team program. But what's nice about this slide and the use of the Wombat software, it has a single glance, we can actually see where we have volunteers ready and able to kind of get engaged. And so you can kind of see how, the program's been emerging. Initially, we kind of formulated itself first up in the Northeast in Massachusetts. And of course, then Jack recruited me, and then we connected with Arizona. And of course, that's spreading over to the West Coast. So we're growing quite rapidly. And as you can see, we're in now well over 20 states with volunteers.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I wanted to just introduce everybody to our food safety content. This was a really great partnership that we did together with ABSA, the American Biological Safety Association, and the New England Biological Safety Association, and a student NEBSA member who I think is on this call, Cynthia. And so Cynthia developed our food safety toolkit, which has these posters that are downloadable for anybody to use, our clients, that focus on food safety. And there's also a safety section that's more for, while you're working in food service. And this is something that's available when you look at nonprofits, even if many of them actually produce food as part of their mission. But most nonprofits will at some point have food, if only a picnic for their volunteers, and really need to make sure they're focusing on that, because as somebody who's had food poisoning, I can tell you it's no fun. And so it's a really great resource. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Cynthia, but if you have anything you want to add.
Sure, thank you so much. Yeah, we're really excited to get these kind of up and live on the website. And kind of our hope and our thought is that the more people that visit, if we're able to kind of build to this resource library, that we'll kind of continue with that and really kind of seeing what nonprofits are dealing with, the issues that they've had, things that have been challenges. So yeah, I think we've got a kind of good base, and we're hoping to build on it from here. So it's been good.
Thank you.
So, Sharon, I'll just add to this discussion on the food safety. We have a new client in New England. It's a large nonprofit that performs fundraising, and it's a athletic event. It's a bicycle event, a 2-day event. You know, our clients are confidential, so in many cases they'll allow us to share their identity. At this point, we're too new in the relationship, so I won't mention who it is, but it's a big event with 15 employees, 3,600 volunteers, 6,000 bicyclists that bicycle across Massachusetts for 2 days. Food is a big part of what they do, and specifically, they ask for support in terms of the food safety. So we're looking to connect in Cynthia and the ABSA team here in New England to support that client. Okay. So just as we kind of wrap things up here, I mentioned at the start that we're working on a number of relationships and collaborations, partnerships. We have 2 formal partnerships at this point, which is ABSA and also Yellowbird. We have others in the works, and basically we're formalizing the work where we share the common goals and mission. For instance, the Wombat software. We share a goal of giving back to the nonprofit community. Likewise, we've just engaged with OSHA, looking at their alliance programs. The ASSP is a very active partner, and we're looking to formalize that. So just to give you an example, many of you are members of these different organizations, and this is really how we extend our reach and impact, is through this partnership. So more to come there. If you'd like to reach out to myself or anyone else on the leadership team, we can give you more information and suggest how you might get plugged in. Okay. So, really what we want to do, we're going to open it up for Q&As. I didn't really see too much coming into the chat here. So the question is, what tools do you need to go out and knock on those doors and offer the Safety for Nonprofit services? And we've created some tools. If there are more that would be helpful to you, certainly we can discuss it here in this call. We'll open up, take folks off of mute if you can do that, or you can drop us a note and we're happy to get back to you. But the main thing is we want to help you as volunteers connect with the nonprofits that you have passion about in your community, however you define the community. And then once you get them to say, yes, we want safety services, then we'll do the back office support to help you do that. Okay. We've got a number of things that enable us to get the message out. The LinkedIn page, Sharon, if you want to maybe just summarize some of the results that we're seeing. We have quite a bit of content there, and we're getting increasing visits. So that's one of our key means to get the message out.
Yeah, just we have a news and events section of our webpage, and of course we post on LinkedIn. So it's just a resource for you to know what we're doing, and also we appreciate, like everybody else, if you reposted stuff, so we're reaching a wider variety. And then the most important thing is, like we've been saying, is getting out there, volunteering, forwarding information about us to your local nonprofit and to your friends who might know one that needs help. It's amazing where you meet people that are in the nonprofit world, and because there's just so many more people than I think I ever knew working in nonprofits. So let people know about us, and we'll get out there and help them.
Excellent. Okay. So, this is the end of our content. We're open. I guess we can keep recording the Q&As if there are any. If you want to raise your hand, we'll recognize you, and or if you want to just speak out, that works too. Questions, comments?
Hi, this is Elizabeth Black in Washington State. So I
Yeah.
saw that you have Washington on your map of states with volunteers. Um, I'm wondering if you can put me in touch with them so I can sort of start to understand what network is available locally. And then as a secondary question, and then I'll go back to mute myself. I submitted a couple of projects that I'm working on a pro bono basis. I haven't heard anything back. I'm just wondering do I need to go, no go from you guys to have that liability coverage? Or I think that's pretty much my question. Thank you.
Yeah, Elizabeth, we can, Washington, we group volunteers from Washington and other states where we don't have a team yet into the virtual team. And Stephen Mazeros leads that. So I don't, Stephen, if you want to field the call.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, Elizabeth. I think, we spoke earlier. So first, I believe we have one other, hang on one second. Unfortunately, I got
Hey, Jack, do you want to unshare? So that way we could see each other?
Sure.
Thanks.
apologies. I had a call coming in and it disrupted my laptop here, but yeah, so we do have we do have one other volunteer in the Seattle area. We can look that up afterwards and try to connect you. With regard to your submittal, I had not seen that yet. I'm not sure, Sharon, if it went to you or not, but it didn't come to me. So,
I'm sorry,
but
Elizabeth, I was wondering as well. I didn't know where you submitted those projects.
did you do that on the Wombat platform, Elizabeth?
No, I just did it as an email. So I'll go back and look at the Wombat platform. I had signed up and did all of the online
Yeah,
training,
yeah.
and then I think it kind of fell off my plate, out of my brain a little bit. So I'll go back and look at that, and I'll submit them that way.
Well,
Yeah, so ideally, the process is as kind of we could just touch on it real quickly. The first thing you do is kind of establish what's going to be the scope of work. And then once that's clear, we then would take a look at that scope of work and go through that go, no go, form and evaluate whether it's within the bounds of what S4NP does. And once we clear that, we kind of move to establishing that contractual relationship with the nonprofit. And once those three steps are in place, I think we're safe to say that then we would be legitimately covered by, the liability insurance, for the work our volunteer would be doing with that nonprofit.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go back and resubmit those through Wombat.
yeah, I wouldn't start with the Wombat first. Maybe you can just email us at the info@S4NP account. Or just set up a time to talk with Stephen, who's the virtual team leader.
Yep.
Because we can walk you through the formalities later, but it's more important to just get started.
Okay, I will send that today. And just so that I'm sure I have the right email, what's the email I should send that to?
Info@s4np.org. Jack, if you want to share again, actually, I think that's on the last slide.
All right, I got it.
Yeah. But my email's in the email I sent you. So, and I'm your virtual leader, so I'll take, you could use that email as well.
Okay.
There
Thank
we
you.
go.
You'll see it today or this weekend.
Yeah, ideally each volunteer should be working through their state leader or the virtual leaders, which is Howard and myself.
Okay, and as I was talking to you guys, I got a request for work from this Northwest Justice Project, which is one of the not-for-profits I'm working with. So I will get on that because it looks like they need some help.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It'd be great to look at this and hopefully it qualifies and we can move forward.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, great. Other questions or comments? Okay. One of the things, just talking about the process, when I mentioned that we're working with a fundraising organization who has this bicycling event. Well, we will cover under the S4NP scope of work. We really focus on workers, so it's employees and volunteers. The one thing that we can't formally make recommendations on are the bicyclists. So, I mean, that's just out of the scope. At some point we may expand into that if our consultant, who's the lead, is able to offer appropriate expert advice informally relative to the riders and their safety. That's fine, but it would be outside the scope of S4NP and would be handled through another mechanism informally. So, there's ways to support the organizations. And, for instance, the work on the Navajo reservation, we can't get involved in cleanup of uranium mine tailings. We are not in the business of actual cleanup and remediation of environmental contamination. So we have to stay within the scope of our professional liability insurance so that everyone's protected when we're doing the work at S4NP. Okay. Anything else before we wrap this up? Speak up. Okay. Well, thank you so much for volunteering. We look forward to your experiences of going out and selling S4NP. We do these town halls every 6 months to keep people connected, but we also, try to stay connected through our other teams, the virtual team, the other state teams, and you can always pick up the phone. Any of us who were on the faculty today, please reach out to us. Okay. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you,
wrap
everyone.
up the recording here now.